this guy on about? The Pantheon system in the game, bro. It's a Paragon system, and the Paragon system is shallow as dude. And it's interesting to hear some of these people's points, because often they make some good points, and often they make some completely brain-dead trash points that would literally do the opposite of what they're saying, and they make the game even worse. I feel like this guy doesn't even understand what he's talking about. Yo, what's this? What's this?
Alright, the title is pretty accurate, and I'm definitely about to clown on Diablo 4 kind of a lot, but that being said, people can enjoy and play whatever they want to. It's not a bad game, strictly speaking. There are good parts, I'll try to also make sure to mention those, but every time I play Diablo 4, I catch myself thinking more than once every single session, why is it like this,
picture
and
life,
why
right?
don't I just go play Path of Exile? For starters, this is a $70 game with microtransactions. I want everyone to remember that as I go deeper into the review, because that matters. $70 with expensive microtransactions. Cool, fun, maybe you don't care, but why don't I just play Path of Exile then? Unlike Diablo 4, it's free, and with $70 I can buy plenty of discounted cosmetics, and utility items of which there are more and better than Diablo 4. Great start. In the background right now, there's some footage of a rogue.
What does he mean? I hear he's talking about utility items. Does he mean stash tabs? It must mean stash tabs, right?
Started leveling, but it's not exactly where I want it to be.
Eat my pride.
Long way to go, of course. I really do enjoy the gameplay at times, so it's easy to get sucked in and keep playing dungeons for like one continuous session, but the reason I play games like this, really boiling it down to the absolute minimum, is to make character builds and get loot. Games like Diablo 4 are fundamentally about those two things, builds and loot. What you get for loot determines how you can build, and how you build determines how fast and how much you can get for loot, and if you can ascend through the difficulties and continue to get the better loot. It's a binary cycle, and it's pretty fun. Okay. Diablo 4 pulls it off acceptably well. Genuinely, it does. But when you look at these two systems apart from each other, and then look at the ways that they interact with one another, things kind of start to unravel. Diablo 4 progression basically goes like this. What you do from level 1 to level 60 doesn't really matter. That's just leveling. 60 or 70 to like 90 or so is mid-game, and after that you get towards end-game. Some people have different definitions of early, mid, and late game. They say that mid-game is really about 45 onwards to 80, but you get the point. Early, mid, late as general.
Late game is World War 4, bro. I'm sorry, but no, nothing changes past World War. Once you get to World War 4, that's it. You're in the end game, that's it. Once you're in World War 4, that's it, which is like level 65, right? It's 65.
Well, units where early is just a grind fest to get something functional.
Bro,
mid game is a refinement of some kind of build, and late game is grinding content to perfect rolls on gear. Early game is pretty fun. You start scavenging for gear, learning what the unique bonuses do from the different items, putting something together on the fly, maybe playing with your cosmetics, and feeling the basic curve of power progression. It's enjoyable. At least it has been for me a couple of times, but you very quickly start running into problems. See, early game is genuinely fun. The story is good, the combat is good, the progression feels nice, and that sort of, ooh, a piece of candy mentality is really fresh on your mind, so you just feel good about playing. However, as soon as you get into mid-game, it throws you a curveball. For starters, you only have 4 stash tabs. This is interesting, and they will, of course, sell you stash tabs in the future.
No, they won't. No, they won't. If they do that, everyone's gonna riot. If they do that, everyone's gonna riot. They won't. They will not sell stash tabs. No, they're gonna add it in as season rewards and shit like that. That's what they're gonna do. That's what they're gonna do.
Price tag in a $70 game that also has microtransactions, but
I will fucking rage out. I will angrily tweet at Blizzard, and I will complain incessantly for days. Okay, if they sell stash tabs while buying them, by the way, I will buy them. But no, seriously, I don't think they will. I don't think they will. That'd be a PR optics nightmare.
I catch myself thinking, why don't I just play Path of Exile? At least there I can actually keep the gear I want to. Some people might say, oh, well, you're just nitpicking here, but no, I'm not. Diablo 4 has a lot of interesting gear. That's one of the best aspects of the game. I want to collect it. That's the purpose. That's the whole point of the game, but I can't really collect it because I don't have the space to collect it. All the gems, which don't have their own tab, funnily enough, take up a large chunk of my stash capacity, and this kind of terrible loot management extends to every facet of the game. There's no search function for the stash, like there is in Path of Exile. They doubled up and keep 2 of the most critical consumable items, of which you will want to hoard many of them, by the way, over the course of your playtime, those being elixirs and sigils, in the same sub-inventory slot, so you constantly have to play this mini-game of hot potato if you actually want to maintain a hoard of loot. And they don't have any sort of quick drop function, so if you ever get in the thick of it for a dungeon and need to make rapid decisions about inventory or what to carry, you can't even do that quickly because you have to drag things physically around like a moron with the inventory open. Now, for build functionality, I had a lot of fun. Okay,
What?
it might be surprising to hear, but I did for a bit.
Wait, what? I spaced out. Wait, like I spaced out. What did he? Wait, is he talking about moving? I'm sorry, I spaced out. I'm going back.
Actually, want to maintain a hoard of loot, of which you will want to hoard many of them, by the way, over the course of your playtime.
Okay.
Those being elixirs and sigils.
So you have
in
separate
the same
tabs, yeah.
sub-inventory slot. So you constantly have to play this mini game of hot potato if you actually want to maintain a hoard of loot. And they don't have any sort of quick drop function, so if you ever get in the thick of it for a dungeon and need to make rapid decisions about inventory or what to carry, you can't even do that quickly because you have to drag things physically around like a moron with the inventory open. Now, for
We need to drag weight, not like a moron. They need to add more weight. There's a lack of weight in Diablo 4. It's the opposite. Wait, there's nothing wrong with dragging things around. Inventory Tetris is great. It's supposed to feel the weight, bro. There's a lack of weight in this game. Yeah, the stash tab ain't big enough for sure. But like having an infinite fucking bag of quick inventory auto stash bullshit, that's way worse.
For
bro.
build functionality, I had a lot of fun. Okay, it might be surprising to hear, but I did for a bit. For a little bit. After that, I realized something. Why was I spending time trying to find creative ways to use this skill tree right here when I could have access to this one? Once again, the question loomed in my head, why don't I just play Path of Exile? To be fair, I like the Pantheon system in Diablo 4. It's interesting, it's fun to creep across the board, and the abundance of points can make it super satisfying to unlock secondary bonuses and piece together functional damage. But wait, no, because if you want to reset something significant way back in the tree...
What is this guy on about? The fucking Pantheon system in the game, bro. It's a Paragon system, and the Paragon system is fucking shallow as fuck, dude.
...towards actual endgame, you have to reset...
It's a Paragon system is like definition of saying that's like overcomplicated, but also at the same time overly. It's super simple. It's like it's actually so fucking bad. It's actually so bad. It's like it's literally like it's super confusing, but then actually really basic. And it's like the opposite of whatever I feel like Blizzard's mentality is. I thought Blizzard's mentality is like, oh, it's super easy to get into and like ultra easy to understand, but there's actually a lot of depth there.
Reset practically everything. Why would I play a game with less content, less convenience, less customization, and less quality of life for 10 times the price tag with less capacity to even keep the gear I find? That question was getting pretty hard for me to answer. Like I said, early game was fun because everything felt fresh.
Because variety, bro. Because you want to play more than one game. You don't want to just play PoE all the fucking time. Because if you want to play PoE, you'd be playing PoE right now, but you're not. Okay, dude. Like, what the fuck?
And new.
There could be like there's plenty of things in D4 that you can do that you can't do in fucking PoE. That's for sure. Okay, now it's like for sure. Do I see myself playing D4 more than PoE? No, I think I'm gonna be playing more PoE because I think the game is more replayable, has more engaging in-game, has more engaging character development, and like the whole journey of your character. It's just better to play for long periods of time. But do I still think does that mean I'm not gonna have done a D4? Fuck no, I'm still gonna log in a D4. I'm hoping that they're gonna get to the point where it's like was like better than D3 because in D3 they'll be like, yeah, it was fun to play the game for like a week or whatever, right? Every season you log in for a week, it was a good time. Now that contrast back to the early seasons when they were adding fuck tons of content into the game and doing lots of big shit. Okay, it was fun for months. Now I'm hoping D4 will do that, right? Where they just slam in so much content, so much new shit that's interesting that you want to fuck around with, that you want to try, that'll make the game fun to play for like a month plus. But we'll literally have to see. We'll literally have to see, right? But I feel like that's the main draw for me is like another AIPG that isn't dog shit, that has variety, has new content, has new stuff. I mean, shit.
Which is a completely intoxicating feeling for me as a video game player, likewise true for most other people out there. But when going through mid-game into end-game on my first character, the honeymoon phase ended unceremoniously. For example, there's a lot of basic components on the map organized nicely into their own little list on the side of your inventory, and at first that's cool. The UI is not great, but it's fine, so there's components.
Yeah, that's currently a meta shift. Well, you understand, that's how like World of Warcraft expansions go. They go through their like honeymoon phase where everyone's like, oh my god, World of Warcraft's amazing. And then all of a sudden it goes to this fucking thing where like, wait, wow, bad. And then everyone's like, wow, why is WoW so bad? And right now D4 is in that, like, they went through that phase and now they're in the D4 bad phase. It's just a little meta right now. And it's interesting to hear some of these people's points because often they make some good points and often they make some completely brain dead trash points that would literally do the opposite of what they're saying, and they make the game even worse, right? So it's interesting to hear what people are saying.
Components, whatever, big whoop. Because you don't really do any respecking or rolling. You don't see the significance here. You don't even pay attention to them. But as soon as you start, yeah, things get expensive. And a lot of those actual material types are just completely left behind. There's no point to them. It made me wonder, why am I playing this game when Path of Exile has an orb currency system tied directly into a massive crafting function where things always maintain value and practical usage in an economy that facilitates trade and cooperation?
Yeah, I must admit, the Path of Exile currency system is so fucking amazing. Like, you gotta admit, it is so fucking good. The fact that the currencies are valuable because they are useful and based on the balancing of those items or the crafting methods currently in the game, that they'll fluctuate in price is so interesting, right? Like some leagues, you don't need exalts that much and the price goes down massively. Or some leagues, you need them first. Like, I remember Metamod crafting league, what was it, Legion? So expensive. And, you know, it's one of these things where I feel like the currency system at PoE is fucking genius. It's genius. You don't get that awful, like, inflation feeling of something feeling like worth for nothing. Maybe on a transmute, but, you know, it really is good. It really is genius.
Yeah, Diablo 4 basically does not have a player economy. It's supposed to, it says it does, but it doesn't. That's fine for solo self-found fans or players, but for someone like me who loves trading with other players of the game and buying or selling in a player-driven economy of sorts,
Log in to Discord.
that sucks. Why would I play this game when it quite obviously is unfinished?
Log in to Discord, bro.
I hope they make something functional to facilitate a player-driven economy, which doesn't really exist right now. If we want to talk about general player cooperation, because the game is supposed to have MMO-type elements to it, it does exist in Diablo 4, it's just broken. The cooperation you find is boosting and leeching, because people can just enter an instance, have someone else kill the entire dungeon for them basically instantaneously, and get everything immediately. I'm not saying I don't want there to be some sort of motivation for higher-level players to help out lower-level ones.
I don't know, it's got like that, bro.
Good. Or some kind of power fantasy where you can get boosted a bit by your buddy who happens to have a badass build, but the total support of leeching and boosting is just way too far and doesn't make sense. This is like the basic framework of a game that just isn't complete yet. Maybe polished is a better word here, and that's okay, because it just came out. But is it okay, though? Is it really okay? It's a $70 game with microtransactions that you'll have to buy utility for, like stash tabs. Is that okay? Really? A good example of what I'm talking about is dungeon design. Basically, every dungeon is the...
I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is, bro. It is what it is, ultimately. That's what it is. It is... Wait, no, it is what it is. Is it okay? No, really. Okay, wait. So go back. That's what you said. Okay, you guys are spacing out.
Who happens to have a badass build, but the total support of...
I feel like the whole boosting thing, basically they've designed the game for couch co-op, and they've designed the game to be played where you can play with a high-level character with a low-level character. So there is always going to be like a fucking thing where people can kind of boost each other, and that's just fundamentally part of their game design. Now that's dog shit and it's trash and I fucking hate that, and I hate the scaling. I hate the fucking the normalization of your levels and the way that works, because it makes like in-game content not really feel like in-game content if there's like a level fucking 5 in your group, whatever. Okay, but who cares? They fixed this just by adding an SSF tag into the game, and you're good to go. Then anyone who's fucking not dog shit just plays SSFW. It's just a better way to play the game anyway. Log in.
Leeching and boosting is...
Or if you don't care about SSF, well then guess what? You can also just not care about boosting. And then, but now, if you're a person who cares about the stuff like that, well then you play SSF. It's pretty simple. But who is competitive that plays Trade League? No, if you play Trade League, it's fucking meme, dude. You're playing sandbox mode. Literally nobody cares about Trade League. Like, Trade League is a fucking meme setup. It's a meme setup. No, dude, no one fucking cares. Dude, Mathil doesn't care about Trade League. Mathil just likes to play Trade League because it's fun. Do you think Mathil would care if people could boost? Bro, you can fucking boost. You can get Legion boosts. You can get Legion boosts in PoE. You can get boosted characters in PoE. You can get a character from 0 to 100 in a day. Or even less than that. Havoc, level 100, speedrun. Apparently in 1 hour.
Okay, I am...
You can get a level 100 in 1 hour. Okay? I mean, don't get me wrong. This is a fully functioning group of autistic nerds. Giga min-maxing, ultra tryharding, ultra leeching, where he's just constantly switching groups. Right? This is like ultra tryharding, right? Okay, but the point is, boosting does exist. You can do far less tryhard, where people do like, I don't know, Impy sits there and he does these runs where he has a character that just shoots out a wand attack that destroys the entire legion from just standing there, and he wants more people to be in the group because then they get more loot and shit like that, right? So people literally boost characters. You can do it in PoE. Guess what? People don't care that you can do that on Trade League because most people don't. It's not some competitive mode mode, right? And guess what? If they are competitive and they think, well, boosting stock shit, then guess what? They just play on SSF and it's fine. Which is why they can easily fix this just by fucking putting an SSF tag onto the game. It's pretty simple. They literally just did an SSF tag. Just a literal SSF mode, which just means, okay, guess what? It's just a separate thing, which just makes your character SSF. You can no longer, here's a separate stash tab, and you cannot trade, and you cannot group, and you're good to go. That's it. There you go. That's SSF mode. They absolutely will put SSF mode into the game. They absolutely will. Whether it be a mode where it's just a flag on your character, has that character ever, whether it be just a flag or it be an actual checkbox when you start up your character, I mean, I think it's less likely to be a checkbox and more likely to be like a flag. I think an SSF flag is absolutely reasonable. I think an SSF flag could totally happen. And it would be just for the minority of players who want to play competitively and don't want to have to deal with people boosting or any of that bullshit, and they can just play in their own solo mode knowing that everyone else who's got the flag is also playing the same game mode, they're in the same modality as you, and then it's fair and ethical, and then you're good to go, right? It's pretty simple.
It's just way too far and doesn't make sense. This is like the basic framework of a game that just isn't complete yet. Maybe polished is a better word here, and that's okay, because it just came out.
Fuck up.
But is it okay, though? Is it really okay? It's a $70 game with microtransactions.
It's okay if that is SSF tag. Yeah, it's okay if that is SSF tag.
That you'll have to buy utility for, like stash tabs. Is that okay? Really? A good example of what I'm talking about.
That's current monetization. Ultimately, they're going to monetize the game to the maximal amount. They will monetize the game to the maximal amount until people stop, until it's not worth, until they start losing money doing it, right? They will always maximally monetize. I mean, look at Diablo fucking Immortal, or Diablo Immortal, my bad.
Basically, every dungeon is the same. Grab 2 or 3 things scattered around, or kill a set of monsters, unlock a door, go kill the main boss, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Well, they split the things that you have to gather or kill or whatever it is into separate locations around the first part of the dungeon, but there's no map overlay. So you have to keep spam opening the map every couple of seconds to see where you've gone and where you have to go next.
In this clip here, you haven't done.
This results in a lot of backtracking. And yeah, it becomes second nature after a while to flash the map every 2 seconds, but just because I'm used to it doesn't...
You haven't flashed the map a single time in this video, bro.
...make it good design. And I found myself asking, yet again, why don't I just go play Path of Exile?
I went in on the fence with this, and I can tell you now, after playing Diablo 4, I can thoroughly say the map overlay is a fucking meme, and you don't need it. I'm totally fine with it not having a fucking map overlay. After playing the game for a fuck ton, that's not something that I think, man, I really want that. No, I don't sit there thinking, man, I want that. I just don't. It's not something I think about. What I think about is I get triggered as fuck by the inventory. I get triggered as fuck by, my bank. I get triggered as fuck by itemization. I get triggered as fuck by loading. Do you know what I don't get triggered by? The fact that there's no map overlay. It's literally fine, and actually, if anything, I'm actually slightly more immersed into the computer game. Like, straight up. The overlay thing, not a big deal. If you've played the game, I mean, how many of you guys played the game and were like, man, I really want to map overlay the whole time you're playing it? Once you understand the layouts, it's really simple. Do you know what would you rather have, a map overlay or a fucking a life bar over your character's head that shows your character's life? I would want the fucking life bar any day. Like that bothers me more. I mean, the point is the amount that they're not having a map overlay. I think it's literally fine for them to not have the overlay. I think there's certain benefits to not having the overlay. There's certain downsides to not having the overlay, and I think it really is quite neutral. The point where I think it's maybe even weighted slightly in the no overlay is better. I'm slightly in the no overlay is better camp.
Most of these issues have already been ironed out in that game, and it's free. Another thing I just have to talk about is hardcore. I used to play hardcore in Path of Exile, and I wasn't amazing at it, okay? I was mediocre at best, but I did have fun. I could get characters into endgame with decent consistency, and maybe not do the crazy bosses or anything like that, but I was able to really engage with that system, and I found it to be pretty enjoyable. Not perfect.
This guy's a fucking noob, dude. Holy shit. This guy's a fucking noob, dude. Holy shit, dude. God damn.
Mind you, but it was enjoyable.
You guys understand I'm not 0 to 7, right? You guys understand I'm literally not 0 to 7, right? You understand that's like, you guys understand I'm like 4 out of 7. Well, I'm technically like 7 out of 7, but my character that would have been able to easily trivialize all the bosses died to a fucking literal server disconnection. My stream was fine. Everything was GG server shit in the bed. Yeah, so I'm 7 out of 7 theoretically. Let's be honest.
Diablo 4 hardcore is trivialized completely. The existence of an elixir that cheats death, in combination with how it can be used and a few other mechanics in play here that I don't really need to discuss, that's just tedious, make hardcore basically a joke. Hardcore
He doesn't understand. I feel like this guy doesn't even understand what he's talking about. He killed Paragon's pantheons, and he doesn't even understand what a scroll of escape is, or how it even works.
Or is supposed to be precisely that. No safety nets, no second chances. For anyone who wants a challenge of that type.
They 100,000% need to remove cheat death from sorcerer, and they need to remove the cheat death potions. 100,000%. And then they need to just slightly redesign uber bosses. They just need to be slightly redesigned. That's it. Just remove all cheat death potions and remove Sork's cheat death, and then they just need to slightly redesign the uber bosses just to be a little bit more forgiving, and then they're good to go. It's like straight up. What bosses? What this uber Lilith needs to slide? Basically, they would remove cheat death elixirs, and then they would remove Sork's cheat death, and then they'd slightly nerf damage output on some of the uber bosses. Like, okay, because we know there's a new uber boss coming soon, right? So like the current ones and future uber bosses.
Why would you play Diablo 4 where you can basically have a perpetual second chance in hardcore when Path of Exile exists, where hardcore is legitimately tense, and you don't get a constant second chance, which basically invalidates the concept of permadeath by existing? I don't know. Maybe some people disagree with that, and I'm not really gonna die on that hill per se, but I just don't see the logic. Endgame is there, but there's not a ton.
That's bad. It's stupid. The fact that you can literally have a invulnerability cheat death mechanic, and then during that invulnerability you can teleport back home is fucking stupid. It creates providing you farm enough mats, which don't get me wrong, you don't use it. You only use it when you're doing the super hardcore stuff like Uber Lilith. But it basically just turns. You might as well, if you're gonna have that, you might as well just say, okay, do you know what? Uber Lilith doesn't actually kill you. If they're gonna have this system in the game, you might as well just make it so Uber bosses don't actually kill you. They just teleport you to the instance beginning after every time. They just get you to 1 HP, and then you just try again and it resets the boss fight. Because that's effectively what happens. Like they're like hardcore, like killing Uber Lilith or whatever. It's not hardcore. It's just like you just have to farm out a certain amount of mats, and you just keep attempting it over and over and over again. Yeah, it's pseudo. But now you can't maintain those cheat death potions all the time. So it's not like you can play the game the whole time like that. So like getting a character to level 100 in hardcore is still a feat, and it's one of those things where because you had to just that time you can't maintain potions the entire time, and you absolutely can die, and people do die. But the point is, the fact remains, it's just a stupid fucking system. Just remove cheat death potions. Literally, just remove cheat death potions and remove remove cheat death potions and remove sorcerer's cheat death, and then it's fixed. And then you can slightly modify Uber. If they want to keep Uber Lilith as it currently sits, as it currently plays, they could make it so Uber Lilith in hardcore. It's kind of cringe. This is bad. I think this would be a bad change. If they really wanted to, instead of nerfing her, they could actually just make it a challenge, and instead of killing you, she just teleports you to the beginning, right? And resets the fight.
A lot of the endgame feels...
No, removing Scroll of Escape's worse. Because if you remove Scroll of Escape, well then you die to game crashes and internet DCs. So I think keeping Scroll of Escape is probably good. I would say also nerfing Scroll of Escape drop rate, and then maybe putting a cooldown of Scroll of Escape would be a good idea, right? So I mean a significant cooldown, right? I'm saying like, okay, like maybe it could be like you can only use one Scroll of Escape every like 5 hours, or they could have like 3 charges and each one has a 5-hour cooldown, so you could log out 3 times. So like, I don't know, something like that. Just so you can't sit there spamming it, right? Once a month. Yeah. I think having Scroll of Escape makes sense though, because literally the question is, would you rather have people have instant TP back to home mechanic, right? Or would you rather have it so people just die to a crash or a game server issue? Ask yourself that question. And everyone here anyone who's saying they'd rather have their character die to a game crash is just lying to yourself. All right? You get what I'm saying? Bomb at a cooldown bonus, you still AFK'd and base until off cooldown, making you just... I very rarely, that was a speedrunning mechanic instability, and that happened like 2 times in my entire playthrough, wherever I had to like... I was like, okay, if I'm in the mountains and I haven't got full gear, do not go in the mountain unless bone map is up or is off cooldown. Just to avoid the single scenario of getting wolf ganked with no bone mass up. That's literally it. That was it. And it happened like twice in my entire playthrough while I was speedrunning naked in leather gear at mountains. Okay, dude. Pre-Elder. Okay, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm speedrunning strats. Okay, dude.
Feels rather pointless. And just to be sure, I've been chatting with some friends of mine who are much, much more dedicated to grinding the game than I am, who have all basically confirmed my thinking is correct, and they've maxed out multiple characters, etc., etc. So I'm not really qualified to speak on this, so I talk to them, and they are. And the game just gets boring after a while. That's the general consensus. This, to me, isn't as concerning as certain other things that I've already talked about. They will add more content over time. I'm not actually, broken up over that. Seasons will be a thing. But I just have to keep saying this. Why would you pay $70 for something that has broken and shallow components of its core gameplay loop when a completely free alternative called Path of Exile?
Because you may have played Path of Exile for literally 10,000 plus hours and done everything in Path of Exile, and you just don't really feel like playing Path of Exile right now, and they've released this game which at least has 20 to 40 hours of solid playtime, which is enjoyable and fun to play, which is totally reasonable for the fucking current year of gaming. Like, literally, you can buy a game. Now, if you haven't played PoE and you're paying for D4, then you're kind of an idiot, right? You're kind of an idiot. You should log into PoE 100%. But now, if you played a fuck ton of PoE and you just want to try something different, and you're not, like, fucking poor, buying a game for $70, you will play for like 40 hours and have fun for 40 hours. That's totally reasonable and fine. Like, what?
Exists right now. There are a lot of recycled bosses. Map progression isn't shared across characters, which deflated me completely when I went to make my druid. I actually stepped away from the game for a bit when that happened because I was so annoyed about it. And this one took me a bit to understand, but once I figured it out, I had this aha moment, if you will. Because the way dynamic level scaling works, you actually hurt yourself if you don't level properly. That may sound stupid, but let me explain. Every time you level, monsters level with you. Going out and grinding a few levels on something that seems fairly easy at the time in order to get stronger for other content isn't really...
It literally goes against the... It's like directly opposes what an RPG is.
...a thing. Because you need to be slotting every point you get into tangible immediate bonuses, or else leveling actively hurts the power fantasy. I'm not kidding. It may be subtle at times, and I don't know, maybe I'm misunderstanding some of this or I had a bad experience, right? But leveling up actively hurts the power fantasy unless you put the points in the right places every time immediately with upgrades to gear alongside as you go. Now sure, that may be fine for some people because they think that's the intended way to play, but I have this pattern personally where I like to grind something out for a while, get a bunch of loot, throw it in the stash, go sort it, check it out, sit in town, understand it all, figure out what's good, plug in upgrades, and then spend skill points. Nope, can't do that. When I try, I'm confronted by the fact that I don't have enough stash space to even do it.
Yeah.
My character is weaker because I'm not doing enough constant incremental upgrades. Yep. Basically, I can't build outwards around a certain node, accomplishing a task over time the way that I want to, or I'll get weaker. And I have no search function, so the inventory portion of the game, even the skill tree portion of the game, is just tedious.
They designed the game for consoles ported to PCs. We've known this for ages.
Tedious. Again, there's fun to be had for some players. I'm not going to dispute that. I'm just not really the one having that fun anymore. Learning the stats was fun. It genuinely was. I always enjoy that. But not everybody does. And it was fun until I discovered that vulnerability is a multiplicative damage type applied after other bonuses, thereby massively superior. Basically, any build that can't use vulnerability heavily is dead in the water. That was lucky for me because I happened to have used a couple different things that all heavily prioritized it on my first couple of characters. But man, my enthusiasm for the game was getting sapped really quickly after a certain point, and I can imagine that people that aren't as in tune with the stats kind of side of things are not really going to have a fun time when they realize how shallow this game actually is. ARPGs, for me at least, are about loot and unique...
I mean, wait. In the PoE, most things are additive. Like, they most stack with an increased damage multiplier. Unless you know about things like a debuff on monsters that make enemies take increased damage, which then turns into like a vulnerability multiplier. So if you're saying like people are intuiting like 20% damage to close enemies is 20% more damage, if you think 20% physical damage in PoE equals 20% physical damage, well then you're fucking right? And it means you don't understand what the fuck's happening either. So I don't know. I feel like this, you know, you just have to understand which things are multiplicative and which things are not. I feel like the best thing a game can do is implement a system that says like more or increase, right? Or have like a fucking actual X multiplier. By the way, the X in fucking D4 doesn't work. Half the things that say X are not multiplicative, and some of the things that say X are multiplicative. So it's not consistent.
Character builds. I know that's not everyone, but I'm just talking about my subjective experience here. The loot gets repetitive fast in Diablo 4 and doesn't even really have in-depth customization. Why wouldn't I just play Path of Exile, where I can basically take a piece of shit white item from anywhere and slowly turn it into the greatest thing ever with the customization and crafting?
Okay, get that eye level driftwood, get that eye level 1 fucking rusted hatchet, whatever the fuck, and make that into the best weapon ever. I'll wait, because you can't. I'll wait, because you can't.
Why would I play a $70 game where it's quite literally tedious to look at and sort through the loot and inventory, while I can't store it anywhere because there's no stash capacity, when a free alternative simply doesn't have those problems? The builds, they start off cool until they're not, and I'm sure one day I'll circle back to Diablo 4 and appreciate it when they iron out all the broken stuff, but for my playstyle, it just doesn't cut it for me. I could keep going about the different individual activities, or capstone dungeons, or renown, etc., etc., and I'm sure the diehard fans will be upset that I haven't, because Helltide is super good, and yes, it is quite fun. Or, you're a scrub who doesn't understand the genius. Yes, I'm probably a scrub compared to some or most.
I'm gonna be honest, this guy, you did come off as a bit of a noob, guy making this video. He does come off as a bit of a noob. But, you know what? He is hitting on a lot of the community points where they like to complain about, the, the map overlay, the thing. And a lot of the points, like scaling, you mentioned scaling, totally right. It's weird to keep complimenting itemization, saying it was like good and interesting, but it's not. It's complete trash. But no, the cheat death potion is complete trash. He did make some really good points here. And no, PoE is better than D4, no doubt about that. But ultimately, he does. I do get noob energy.
Most of you, but at the end of the day, if I'm looking at this game from my own unique individual perspective, and if I were forced to give it a numerical rating, I'd give it a go play Path of Exile out of 10. There's legitimately no reason that I see to purchase this game right now. In the end, people can and will, of course, enjoy Diablo 4. It's not for me to ridicule or shame anyone or say anything about that. I'm not saying you can't think that this game is amazing. There's plenty of things here that are well made and fun to play, but this shit's not ready yet. It just isn't. You can like what you like, and
the game should have been released a year from now, I think. I think they had some deadline to meet. And that's what it feels like with the void in content and the end game. It feels like the game should have been released a year from now.
I won't make fun of anyone for it, but making this video just cemented the feeling right now as I say this and read the script that I don't have a reason to log in to Diablo 4. And what I really want to do now is go spin up Path of Exile because it's a better game. End of review. If you want to support the channel, please check out the links down below. There's a whole bunch of different things down there, but I won't stress about it. Thanks for watching, and have a nice night.
Fucking PoE Andy, dude. This is fucking PoE Andy. I'll post the video. It's this video, guys. You're gonna...
Because he is God Gamer.